Good morning, everybody. This is Dr. William Clark, and back with you for another edition of Leadership Conversations. I wanted to come on this morning and continue the conversation we've been having about this little book I wrote called Leadership Development in Your Local Church, developing a system to develop additional leaders in the church. And as I share with you, the past couple of sessions, been writing a series of mini books. These are mini books. They are short in nature. They're designed to be compact, quick reads, so that you can kind of get through the content quickly and to get the information you need without having to read through several hundreds of pages. This particular book is designed for church leaders who are developing other leaders and who need other leaders to step up in their local churches. So I've covered the first couple of chapters in the book as a means to kind of give some background information of what we're doing and what we're talking about, rather, and to give you some context of what I was thinking when I wrote this. This particular talk today, I don't expect to be long, will cover biblical leader development. Now, I've talked about the basics of leadership. I talked about, what was the other topic here? Oh, one of the systems of leader development, which is coaching. And I did espouse to you guys in the previous session that there are multiple sessions or strategies and systems that can be used to develop leaders. But I specifically talk about coaching. And now in chapter 3, I'm talking about biblical leader development as one particular system that can be used. And the example I want to talk about is the relationship between Paul and Timothy. Now, if you read Bible, you know that Paul and Timothy had a special relationship. And in fact, the ongoing conversation and coaching that took place between Paul and Timothy is viewed as pastoral or leadership content for leaders who are ascending to leadership roles. Now, and under this particular chapter, the first thing I say is leader development assesses, challenges, and supports emerging leaders to be more effective. If you're going to be developing leaders in your local context, you have to either assess, challenge, and support emerging leaders. It could be either or. It cannot be either or, rather, but it should be either and. You can do a combination of all these: assessing, challenging, and supporting. You want to make sure that your emerging leaders have the support that they need to grow. Now, this is what Paul told Timothy as he was doing his ongoing coaching and mentoring of him. He told him in 1 Timothy chapter 4, and in the book, I cover 12 through 16. I'm not going to read all that for you, but just going to read verse 12. Let no one despise you for your youth or your age, but set the believers an example in speech and in conduct, and in love and in faith and in purity. So he's coaching him to be an example to the people you are leading, because I've laid hands on you and I've taught you how to be a leader. You've seen my example. So as you're ascending to your role as leader, as covering, as the responsible party of the local congregation, I want you to set an example. Now, remember, he's coaching him through this entire process. Now, remember, I said in the beginning of the chapter, leader development is an assessment, challenging, and supporting process. Now, I talk about in the book that Paul focused on challenging Timothy, giving him a challenging assignment as part of his coaching. That is not the only thing he did, but that's what I wanted to highlight in this particular book. He gave him a challenging assignment, and that challenging assignment, if you go back to Timothy chapter 4, was to live an example of life. Now, if you are a leader and you've been a leader for a while, one of the toughest things that you're responsible for is being an example for people who look up to you, who look to you for guidance on how to move forward. And sometimes you want people to do as you say and not as you do, because you're navigating life, you're navigating decisions, and you're processing your moral compass while wanting to do different things behaviorally. Unfortunately, people tend to copy and listen to what you do, before they listen to what you say. And so Paul challenged Timothy. He's coaching him. I want you to set an example, a behavioral example in front of the people you're leading, because they're going to copy that first. And we want them to copy the right thing. So that is challenging for Timothy, but he's coaching him through that. Now, I'm going to skip through this book, this chapter, but one of the things I do want to highlight in terms of coaching, we do know that Timothy was younger than Paul, and he identified with the younger generation. And regardless of his age, Paul still coached Timothy to set an example. He still wanted him to walk through the process, and he wanted him to learn how to lead seasoned believers or people who are older than him. Now, as you're developing emerging leaders, you may be developing people who are younger in age or younger in experience. And the goal is to give them the exposure to lead people who may have more life experience or may have more experience in general. And if that person has been pegged for leadership, they got to get comfortable with being the youngest in the room, whether it's experience or age. Emerging leaders learn how to fight through this. And I talk about that in the book. Paul wanted Timothy to be intellectually strong. He wanted him to devote himself to reading and studying and developing the concepts and the intellectual ability to lead folks. One of the things that I've learned and seen in my experience is that you need to be a quick study, and it can be challenging depending on the circumstances surrounding the ascension of your leadership. But becoming a quick study is so critical to establishing strong leadership, and that's what Paul was coaching Timothy to do. Paul coached him to persevere through challenges and to continue to practice everything that he's been taught and everything that he's studying. And one of the things I think that senior leaders can continue to encourage younger leaders to do is practice, even though you fell or you've fallen. Practice, get back up and practice that thing so that as your practice continues to go on, your leadership becomes even stronger. You have experiences to rely upon. Practice. Yes, practice. And then the last thing I talk about in the book is that Paul encouraged Timothy to become a self-leader. Self-leadership is one of my favorite theories of leadership. And really what it means is to guide yourself to achieve a specific set of goals. It's no different from leading other people, except that you're just leading yourself. But he encouraged him to become a self-leader. And he says this as a means to that end. He says, keep a close watch on yourself and the teaching. Keep a close watch on yourself in the teaching. That's Timothy chapter 4, verse 16. And what he's saying here in that moment is to make sure that you are abiding by what you've been told, what you've been taught, and what you've been studying. That's the only way you'll have consistency in your leadership that can be respected and trusted. Now, remember, what I'm talking about in this particular chapter is biblical leader development. Even though this is the biblical example for churches and pastors who are watching this, for organizations who are non-faith based, that type of coaching that Paul is giving to Timothy is relevant to you and your organization. As you're developing other leaders, you want your emerging leaders to keep close watch of their behavior and the things that they're thinking about. You want your emerging leaders to take on challenging assignments. You want your emerging leaders to practice certain things over and over again so their leadership gets strong. You want your emerging leaders to be intellectually capable of leading others. You want your emerging leaders to have experience leading people who may be more seasoned, who are older in experience and in years. And so these are things that are relevant across the board. So please, if you're watching in your non-faith-based organization or a non-believer, the context of what's being written here, what's being written about in this particular book, is so critical and useful in your organization. Now, we have one more section to go, and I'll cover that in another blab. And that last section is measuring the impact and the quality of your development system, so that you'll have some parameters of what it means to know if you're doing a good job or not. And so I'll cover that in another session. But I will tell you, as I've told you in other sessions, this book is a free resource, Leader Development in Your Local Church. If you want this free resource, you can go to williampclark.com, my website. That's williampclark.com. And you'll click on the link here, the image here, and it'll come up. And in the description, it will tell you how to get your free copy. Now, if you want to pay for it, fine, it's up to you, but I'm willing to give it to you for free. Just read through the description. It'll tell you how to get your free copy, and you will get it as soon as you follow the directions to get it. And once you get your free copy, feel free to share it with friends, family, coworkers, people you believe that can benefit from this content. I'm anxious to give it away for free. So please, get your free copy at williampclark.com. I look forward to covering the last section of this book with you. And I think it's going to be helpful for many of you who are looking to develop leaders and who are looking to measure the quality of your leader development system. We have other leadership conversations that are scheduled with my colleagues coming up. So stay tuned to that. And until the next time we see each other, stay safe and God bless each and every one of you.